Super Smash Bros.' success among the gaming industry can in large part be attributed to the game's satisfaction factor. Every player has experienced the dopamine boost that comes with connecting certain moves, stringing precise combos, or perfectly executing a specific strategy. So with these things in mind, today we are going to rank all 86 Smash Ultimate characters from least satisfying to most satisfying, based on these factors: moveset and playstyle. This tier list will no doubt be subject to opinion, as each individual player experiences satisfaction uniquely, but nonetheless, putting this tier list together should be very satisfying. Let's dive in, shall we? Hello and welcome to the satisfaction tier list. As you can see, we have 6 categories. At the bottom, we have Rinky Dink, otherwise known as characters whose moves just feel like they hit like a soft pillow. 5th category is D for disappointment. For this category, I think of characters who really I think should be satisfying, but whenever I play them, they just don't do it for me. 3rd category is mid. 3rd category is hey, that's pretty good. 2nd category is nice. Pretty much all the characters that I actually like to play are in the top 3 categories. I don't really play any other characters, at least not more than, 5 minutes. And the very top category is dopamine explosion. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Those characters that you play that you just really get a good feeling about every time that you connect a move, get a combo, pull off a strategy. I would guarantee that if you were to fill out this category for yourself, your main would be in there. And so is mine, but we'll get to it. We're gonna start at the bottom, Rinky Dink. I think the least satisfying character in the entire game is Banjo and Kazooie. I don't know what it is about him. I think the only move that I really feel good about is forward air, and that's about it. Right behind him, I've got to go with Olimar. There might be a case for maybe the purple Pikmin to be, somewhat satisfying, but I mean, that's really the only thing it has going for him. And I would venture to say the same thing about Min Min here. Pretty much the only thing she has going for her is the Megawatt. Other than that, it's just kind of meh. Not to mention all of her kick moves, which really just don't feel that great. Next up, I've got to go with Steve. He may have a few moves that, feel pretty good, but honestly, I really don't think that his combos feel that great because they're just so easy. And honestly, he only has one play style that really works, only one strategy, and it is just not very fun. So we got to put him down here. Next up, we got to go with Piranha Plant. Piranha Plant has lots of moves that feel like they really should be satisfying, but as soon as you hit them, meh. Very similar is Isabelle. I think the only real satisfaction factor that Isabelle has going for her is her smash attacks. And I don't really think that that counts, because I feel like all smash attacks really have some sort of satisfaction to them, so it really doesn't set her apart. Not to mention the fact that down smash just feels like a limp slap. Next up, we gotta go with Ice Climbers. Now I know that Ice Climbers could be way higher on the list if I knew how to do some of the handoff combos and stuff like that. Like if I knew how to 0 to death as Ice Climbers, I mean, I probably would have her up in like the A tier or something like that. But I feel like I'm in the majority of all Smash players who never really took the time to actually learn Ice Climbers. So I have a feeling that most of you would probably agree with me here. But the very small percentage of you who are Ice Climber mains, I'm sorry. Next up, we gotta go with Duck Hunt. I mean, not much to say here. The hits are all very unsatisfying. And a common theme that you'll see from me on this list is that projectile characters are going to be pretty low. There aren't very many projectiles that feel satisfying to use, and all of Duck Hunts are, just pretty bad. Not bad as in strategy, but bad as in satisfaction. That's what I mean. Next up is Bayonetta. Now her moves aren't very satisfying for me. Some of the combos are a little bit satisfying, but not very much because they're so cookie cutter. But pretty much all of her attacks, especially her kicks, aerials, all of that stuff, just doesn't really do it for me. The only thing she has going for her is probably her smash attacks, which again, I just don't feel like that counts. Next up, I sadly have to put Corrin here. Now I really wish that Corrin was more satisfying, but every time I get a hit with the sword, it just doesn't really measure up to what I expect. Here, I'll go ahead and take the time to say that there are a lot of factors that I think play into how satisfying a character really can be. A lot of the time, a move is very satisfying to hit if there is some sort of, meaty sound effect that comes with it. Some moves make the game kind of pause for just a split second. It makes the screen kind of freeze, and that makes a move feel really satisfying. Some moves literally do their own zoom in because they're so powerful. Those moves are very satisfying because it changes the animation. It changes the visual aspect of the game. So we're talking about sound, we're talking about visuals, and I just don't think Corrin has any of that going for him. That being said, the bread and butter Corrin combos are pretty satisfying to hit. Okay, we are already on our second category here. D for disappointment. I think the most disappointing character in the game as far as satisfaction goes is Ridley. Ridley is big, he's pretty fast, he's got sharp claws, he's got, you know, big hitboxes, and then you just go in for a back air and it's just kind of like, I always expect Ridley's attacks to feel so good, but they just never do. Of course, his smash attacks are amazing, his up air is great, his down B is great, but really that's all he has going for him. I have to put him here. Next up is Rosalina and Luma. Without talking too much about smash attacks, I would say that some of Rosa's redeeming qualities here are her aerials, especially whenever you can connect Luma with it. Up air is great, down air is great, and I think that's about it. Next up, we've got Mega Man. Now, I realize that Mega Man also would be much higher if I knew how to do more, you know, special combos with him, like footstool combos and stuff like that. But I don't really like projectile characters, and I don't really like Mega Man, so I didn't really take the time to learn him that much. So for me, he belongs down here. I do think that a few of his aerials are very good. His up tilt is amazing, but the fact that he has 3 moves that are really just the same unsatisfying move, that basically ruins his chances of being any higher for me. Next up, we have Hero. If your character is only satisfying whenever you have a power-up or you get a critical hit, then I would say that your character is not that satisfying. But that being said, with power-ups and the crit, those 2 things alone boost Hero all the way up to D tier. Plus, I would say that he does have a very satisfying projectile. Fully charged neutral B is pretty nice to hit. Next up, I've got to do Rob. Rob has a lot of rinky-dink moves, but I really do think that some of his better moves, like his smash attacks, his aerials, since they are effective, that's kind of what makes them satisfying. You know what I mean? They don't feel great, but because they're so good, it kind of makes him feel a little bit satisfying. On the same note, I would say Mr. Game & Watch, I would say that's probably for the same reason. The hits alone aren't great. The combos alone aren't great. You know, you can juggle somebody with up air all day, but is it really satisfying? No, but is it effective? Yes. Practically though, I put him here just because of 9. Next up, I have 2 characters that I am going to group together. We're going to do the PK boys. There's Lucas and here's Ness. Both Ness and Lucas have moves, especially aerials, that are very strong at the beginning and feel pretty good to hit them at the beginning of their hitbox. But whenever you hit with the weaker hit, oh man, is it a letdown. Also, I think another common theme for this tier list is that a lot of multi-hit moves really don't do it for me. And Ness and Lucas have a fair amount of multi-hit moves. I'm thinking mostly aerials. We've got Lucas's neutral air and his down air. For Ness, we've got forward air and up air. And I just don't really think that those moves do it for me very much. So they definitely belong here. Next up is King DDD. And I'm thinking that I'm going to put him here for the same reason that I put Ridley here. I expect him to be way more satisfying than he is. You think that he would be. He's a big guy. He's got a big hammer. It's got to feel good to hit people with it, right? But it just is not. Except for smash attacks and maybe some special moves. Those are great. But he has a lot more hammer moves that just don't hit the mark for me. That being said, he has tilts that work really good. His dash attack is amazing. Rounding out the D tier here, I've got to put Jigglypuff, because Jigglypuff is satisfying for one reason and one reason only. But hey, if you end up in D tier for only one move, that move's got to be pretty good. All right, to start off the C tier, we're going to do Yoshi. Pretty much the only thing that I really like about Yoshi is, well, other than smash attacks, is his aerials. The combos feel good, the kill setups feel good, and man, does forward air spike feel really good. Next up, we're going to go with Wii Fit Trainer. Wii Fit Trainer, there's, you know, not terrible qualities, not great qualities. I'd say just overall Wii Fit Trainer is just, you know, right there in the middle. Next up, this one might be a little bit controversial. I'm gonna go with Wario. One thing I really like about Wario is that a lot of his moves have a great sound effect. They sound like a really hard slap, which I think is great, but there's no really visual effect to it. Plus, the moves that you really think should have a good slap sound just don't. And I'm thinking about forward tilt. But among some of his most satisfying moves, I'm thinking back air, I'm thinking up air, and I'm thinking waft. Next up, I'm going to do Villager. Now, the reason that I'm putting Villager way above Isabelle here is mainly because of the smash attacks. The smash attacks are so much better than Isabelle's. I'm mainly thinking of bowling ball. I think down smash in its own way is very satisfying just because it sets up for other moves. And probably one of the only satisfying multi-hits, up smash. Other than that, the turnips feel amazing when you get 3 turnips. And then a close forward air back air is amazing. The only reason that he's really in the mid spot is because of his competition. Next up, I'm going with Sora. I really do like the visual effect on Sora's moves, and I like the sound effects especially. They feel like they kind of have that magic kind of sound effect. But we cannot deny that his smash attacks feel great, especially when you get the sweet spot hit. He's got a few aerials that work really well for him as well, but that's all he has going for him really. Next up is Snake, and I'm starting to think that a common theme among the C tier here is that they have great sound effects on their moves. Now for Snake, he's got plenty of moves that have this explosion visual effect and explosion sound effect, and they sound pretty good. He's got a couple of moves that sound like a hard slap, just like Wario. But then there are some moves that are just a letdown. I'm thinking about down tilts, I'm thinking about down smash, thinking about up air, and just moves like that. He's got a lot of them. He's got a few moves that work really well, but most of his moves are pretty much a letdown for me. I think his best redeeming quality is that forward air spike. Next up is Incineroar, and I'll tell you one thing, it's very rare to have a character that has a very satisfying throw. That's definitely Incineroar. He's got that back throw. It feels amazing. Plus, who can deny the fact that getting the timing on the Alolan Whip just feels really good. Next up, we've got Pyra and Mithra. For one reason only, really. The only thing that I really like playing Pyra and Mithra for is Mithra's combos. Not the moves themselves, but just knowing that you landed a combo. Even though they're pretty simple, pretty cookie cutter, they always feel pretty good, especially if you know that you've maxed out the combo to the best that it can go. I mean, pretty much I'm only putting Pyra Mithra here for Mithra. Pyra basically doesn't even belong on this list for me. Next up, we have the Miis. I'm going to group all 3 Miis together. Mii Brawler, Mii Sword Fighter, and Mii Gunner. This is a lot like Wii Fit Trainer. I would say that pretty much all of their moves are just kind of somewhat satisfying. There are a couple that are more satisfying than others, but the margin between the least satisfying moves and the most satisfying moves are not really that big. He's definitely kind of a mid type of character, and I would have to say it's the same for all 3 Miis. Next up is Pac-Man, and again, Pac-Man has a very satisfying projectile, but really only one. I'm thinking Key. You might be able to make a case for the melon as well, but I think really what sets Pac-Man apart is the forward air combos and also the smash attacks. They feel awesome. Next up, I'm going to group 2 characters together. We're looking at Peach and Daisy. This might be a common theme as well with, you know, Ice Climbers and Mega Man. With Peach and Daisy, I would probably place them a lot higher if I knew how to do some of the float cancel combos, because I guarantee that hitting those, executing those perfectly, it probably feels really, really good. But again, I'm probably in the majority of players who never really took the time to perfect those things with Peach and Daisy. Though I will say that really what sets Peach and Daisy apart is the aerials. They feel awesome. Only if you get the strong hit though. Whenever you get the weak hit, it's kind of a letdown. But the strong hits feel that good. Next, I'm going to go with Cloud. I would say that Cloud belongs in C tier for the same reason as the Miis and Wii Fit Trainer. He's probably slightly more satisfying than those two, but it's for the same reason. All of his moves are just, you know, somewhat satisfying. The margin between some of his least satisfying moves versus his most satisfying moves are just not that much. Plus, he doesn't really have a great combo game. Can't really put him on this tier list based on his combos. Next up, we're going to go with Bowser Jr. Bowser Jr., again, has a lot of multi-hit moves. Some of them feel pretty good. I'm thinking up smash, forward smash, feel pretty good. I'm thinking some of his other multi-hit moves just really don't do it for me. That being said, what really balances him out is getting the strong hit. Now I'm thinking down smash. I'm thinking back air. Those are great to hit. And every time you hit a spinning cart move, man, that feels good. On the same note, I'm going to throw in Bowser here. I think he has some moves that just, feel terrible. But then he has some moves that feel awesome. So I feel like he really balances himself out here. Not really much of a combo game. He's just maybe got 2-3 hit combos. That's about it. But man, does it feel good to hit that down air spike, get the shield break with down B, land the drop kick forward smash. Those feel pretty good. But otherwise, he's just kind of, in the middle. Next up is Pikachu. I'm thinking that all of Pikachu's moves are just pretty satisfying, not very much at all. So same reason as Cloud, the Mii's, Wii Fit Trainer. I think really the only thing that sets Pikachu apart here is executing some of the precise combos. I'm thinking lightning loops. I'm thinking the up air strings to, escort to the blast zone, or perhaps the string of back airs that can lead to a thunder spike. Those precise combos feel really good to execute, but the moves themselves, yeah, they really don't do much for me. They're just kind of satisfying. I would say Pikachu is one of the only characters that has a very unsatisfying spike. I really don't think down air does it for me, but the only thing satisfying about it to me is that you take the stock. Next up is Young Link. For a reason that I've already mentioned, he's a very projectile-based character. His sword moves are, somewhat satisfying. They're not great, but I really think what sets him apart is his kicks. Sweet spot neutral air feels amazing. If you get a string of back airs, I think that feels good. Rounding out the C tier, we've got Inkling. I think Inkling has some moves that are so satisfying to hit, and then Inkling has moves that are just meh. I love hitting sweet spot forward air, sweet spot back air. All the smash attacks are pretty good as well. But if we're talking about pretty much all of her specials, as well as her up air, neutral air, Inkling kind of balances herself out with those moves. But nonetheless, she belonged at the top of the mid tier. Starting ourselves off with B tier, I'm going to go with Mewtwo. At this point, I would like to say that all projectile characters are C tier and below, but I got to tell you that Mewtwo's Shadow Ball feels really good to hit, especially whenever you can only half charge it or somewhat charge it in order to start a combo at 0%. Other than that, I really think that Mewtwo's tail moves feel really good. They have that slap sound effect, and getting the sweet spot on those feels amazing. And then pretty much I can't think of another move that really isn't satisfying for Mewtwo, so I would say that he's pretty good. Next up is Link. Again, I really think that Link's projectiles really balance him out here. Although, I do think that a lot of his sword moves and his kicks feel really good. It's just the fact that he has projectiles that balances him out here. But I'd say that his sword moves and his kicks really do kind of put him up here in the B tier. This one might be controversial because a lot of people would put him higher. I'm going to go with Little Mac. Now, I'm considering all the moves here. Now, I know that Little Mac's smash attacks, his tilts, his specials even, feel pretty good. They feel amazing, actually. But we have to consider that his aerials are just trash. They don't do much knockback. They don't do much damage. And man, it feels like just a dry sock. Next up, I'm going to go with Joker. Now, base Joker, I would say is, somewhat satisfying. Not really that much at all. But man, when you get Arsene, it's a whole different ball game. These are the type of moves that I'm talking about. Whenever you hit a move with Arsene, it has an amazing sound effect, an amazing animation, and it even kind of pauses the game for just a split second in order to really highlight the hit. Arsene is amazing, but what really balances Joker out is base Joker here. So I would have to say that kind of deducts from his satisfaction factor there. But I still think he belongs in B tier. Next up is Meta Knight. For one reason and one reason only, is executing precise combos. Meta Knight's hits alone don't really feel all that great. Some of them feel amazing. I'm talking about neutral air. I'm talking about forward smash. Even back air occasionally feels great. But man, whenever you get that ladder combo or that escort to the blast zone just right, you feel like an absolute master at this game. And that definitely gives Meta Knight some extra points here. I play Meta Knight quite a bit because of that reason alone. But whenever I'm not able to get those specific combos, I would say that Meta Knight is pretty mid. But man, what sets him apart is those combos, and I've got to put him here. Next up is Kirby, and I would say for the same reason. Getting those nice long strings of combos feels really good. A lot of Kirby's moves, feel pretty good. A lot of them feel great. I'm thinking back air. I'm thinking forward smash. I even think nair, strong hit of nair feels really good. Even up air, I think feels great. But man, what really sets Kirby apart is getting those long strings of combos with down air, up tilt, and stuff like that. Kirby definitely belongs in B tier. Next up, I'm going to go with Robin. Now, Robin isn't very satisfying without Levin Sword, but with Levin Sword, oh man, we're talking about a new game here. It's a lot like Joker with Arsene, but Robin with Levin Sword feels awesome. Plus, I think Robin has one of the very few projectiles that feel really good, and I'm thinking it's got to be L Thunder. That move feels really good to hit, and it's pretty effective. Next up, I'm going to go with Pokemon Trainer. I think Pokemon Trainer really does kind of fit towards the top in this tier list because you have a plethora of options here. You got 3 different characters to choose from. Each one has about 20 moves. So we're looking at about 60 moves to choose from. So the move selection is massive, and you know, there's got to be a few outliers there. Some of them are really terrible. I think a lot of Squirtle's moves are, you know, not that great. A lot of Ivysaur's moves are pretty mid. And then you got Charizard. I think a lot of his moves are amazing. Charizard's smash attacks feel really good. I think Charizard's aerials feel really good as long as you get the sweet spot. His tilts, I think, really are underrated. And oh man, can we please talk about sweet spot back air with Charizard? That's got to be one of the most satisfying moves in the game. But of course, what really balances Pokemon Trainer out, it's got to be the other 2 characters. I know, you know, a lot of people play him for Ivysaur, a lot of Squirtle lovers out there. The Charizard, to me, for satisfaction, really sets Pokemon Trainer apart, and I think that it just puts him all the way up in B tier. Next up, I'm going to go with Pichu. And you know, whenever we talk about Pichu, we always have to basically compare and contrast with Pikachu. Pichu is more satisfying than Pikachu to me, but I think that Pichu is satisfying for the same reasons. Getting those precise combos obviously sets him apart, but I think what really sets Pichu apart from Pikachu is the moves themselves. I honestly think that Pichu's multi-hits feel really good. I'm thinking forward air, back air, even forward smash I think feels great. Some of the moves that don't have electricity feel really good. I'm thinking neutral air, you know, even up tilt, down tilt, up smash feels really good. Lightning loops feel amazing, just like with Pikachu. And I got to talk about the down air spike. It feels so much better than Pikachu to me. Pichu definitely belongs here. Next up, I've got to go with Ganondorf. I think Ganondorf has a lot of moves that feel pretty good, and then he's got some moves that feel amazing. I'm specifically talking about, we got his moves that are really strong after a long charge up tilt, neutral B, those feel amazing. Let's talk about his aerials. All of his aerials feel really good to hit. I've got to put Ganondorf here. Next up is got to be Dr. Mario for the same reasons as Ganondorf, I would say. A lot of his moves feel pretty good, and then he's got moves that feel amazing. We're mainly talking about his smash attacks. We're talking about his down air. We're talking about his forward air. And I think his sweet spot up B, whew, you really can't beat it. Next up, I'm going to go with Sephiroth. Now, Sephiroth is very interesting because he's only really good if you get the correct spacing on his moves. Whenever you get hits that are towards the hilt of his sword, man, they don't really feel good. They're pretty much a letdown. But I would say whenever you get the sweet spot of his swords, that's what really makes him satisfying and worth playing. Sephiroth players are always looking for that sweet spot, the correct spacing on his moves, and whenever you get that sweet spot, man, is it worth it. I would say that the same reason has got to be with Byleth here. I'm going to put Byleth slightly ahead of Sephiroth here, mainly because I think that Byleth's moves are a little bit more complicated when it comes to spacing. So whenever you get that correct spacing, it's even that much more satisfying because you know you had to work a little bit harder to get it. With Byleth, I'm specifically thinking about forward air, I'm thinking about back air, also forward smash. Plus, Byleth has some really strong moves that feel really good to hit, mainly because they're difficult to hit because of charge up and stuff like that. I'm thinking down smash, I'm thinking down B. So whenever you do get those hits, man, it feels all that much better. Next, I'm going to go with Palutena. Now, a lot of Palutina's moves are very mid, I would say. But then she's got some moves that feel really, really good to hit. Mainly, I'm thinking the moves that she uses her shield to do, back air and dash attack. And man, when you get those, they feel really rewarding. Not to mention the fact that I think Palutena's multi-hits actually feel pretty good. All of her tilts, as well as her up air, her neutral air, I think they all feel pretty good. more than most of the multi-hits in this game. Next up, I'm going to go with Shulk. Now, the only time that Shulk really feels good is whenever you're using the Buster Monado art. Whenever you're using Buster and you get the smash attacks, man, do they feel good. Also, the tilts feel amazing. All of his aerials are great. Just add Buster to that, and we're talking, you know, satisfaction through the roof. But what really balances them out is his base form and also the other Monado arts as well. You would think that with the Smash Monado art, his moves would feel a lot better than they do, but honestly, they don't feel that great. They're just effective, which is satisfying in its own way sometimes. But when compared to the Buster Monado art, they really don't compare. Next up, we're going to go with Samus and Dark Samus. Of course, I'm going to put them together because they're basically a carbon copy of each other. I think that a lot of Samus's moves feel great. I'm mainly talking about kick moves. Neutral air feels great. Sweet spot back air is just amazing. And then some of the other moves that involve her cannon with the fire effect, I think feel pretty good. Down tilt feels good. Forward air feels good. Up smash feels okay. Forward smash feels great. But I think what really sets Samus apart is that she probably has the most satisfying projectile in the game to hit. And I'm not talking about fully charged charge shot. I'm talking about mostly charged charge shot to set up into a combo at 0%. Whenever you execute that correctly, man, does it feel good. Next up, we're gonna go with Sheik. I think that all the Sheik's moves at the very least feel pretty good. The only moves that really don't compare have got to be, you know, her multi-hit moves. But whenever you get a sweet spot on all of her aerials, on her smash attacks, oh my goodness. What really sets apart Sheik though is setting up her specific kill confirm combos. I'm talking about escort to blast zone combos. I'm talking about up air drag down combos. This is what really makes Sheik feel good. And whenever you can end a combo with sweet spot up smash, oh, that is just the best. Next up, we got to go with Pokemon Sheik, Greninja. These two characters are very similar in the way that they move, but as far as satisfaction factor goes, they could not be more different. Sheik is mostly satisfying for her combos. Greninja is mostly satisfying for his pure moves. Although I do think that Greninja's combos feel awesome. Down tilt forward air, down tilt up smash, neutral air, forward air feels great as well. Getting those to kill confirm is really what sets Greninja apart. Now, I know that this next one is purely opinion based. It's just me, probably. I'm gonna go with Ike. A lot of his moves by themselves may not seem all that satisfying, but what I really think sets Ike apart is whenever you know that you perfectly executed spacing with him. Like whenever you perfectly space out moves like a forward tilt or forward air or up tilt or sometimes even up air, you know that's when you feel good. I think all of Ike's moves feel pretty good, and he's got some that just feel amazing. Let's also add dash attack to the list of some of his most satisfying moves. And whenever you charge that neutral B and get that 2-frame, oh man, does that feel good. Ike, for me, definitely belongs at the top of B tier. All right, now moving up into A tier, I think that a few of these characters are going to be controversial, but I think most of them, this is where you would put them as well. Rounding out the bottom of A tier, I'm going to go with the Belmonts. There we go. Now, I really think that all of the Belmonts moves feel really good. Surprisingly good. Even the whip on Simon and Richter's aerials feel really good to hit, especially when you know you got the correct spacing on them. Now, earlier I said that Samus's charge shot is probably one of the most satisfying projectiles in the game to hit. Simon and Richter's axe has got to be in second place. Next up is got to be Lucina. For the same reason as the Belmonts, every single move that Lucina throws out, it feels good to hit, especially when you get that sweet spot down air. Man. Next up is Wolf. Now for Wolf, there is somewhat of a condition here. You need correct spacing in order for Wolf's hits to feel really good. But whenever you get that perfect spacing on his moves, they feel amazing. I'm mainly talking about his aerials, like back air, up air, forward air. You even need good spacing on his smash attacks. Mainly talking about down smash. And let's talk about sweet spot side B. Man, does that feel good, especially when you land it on purpose. Next up, I'm going to do Roy. It's the same thing with Wolf here. There is a condition for Roy's moves to feel good. You need to hit the sweet spot. Whenever you don't hit the sweet spot on Roy's moves, I like to call his sword a wet noodle. That's exactly what it feels like whenever you don't hit the sweet spot. But man, whenever you do hit the sweet spot, it feels like a truck. The sound effects are great. The little stun on the animation looks amazing. And if you add fire effect to this, Oh man, it makes it that much better. Roy definitely belongs in A tier for me. Next up is Mario, but for a different reason. Mario only feels great whenever you get the sweet spot on some of his moves. What really feels good with Mario is executing his kill combos. Even some of his ladder combos where you get the hit off the top with down air or even up B sometimes, those feel really good. But man, if we're talking about kill confirms that end with forward air, just, you know, send him straight up to A tier. Now, one that may be a little bit controversial and surprising, I'm gonna put Toon Link up here. I think Toon Link's moves themselves feel really good. Just combine that with the bomb kill confirms and you've got yourself a very satisfying character. I think all of his smash attacks feel amazing. I think his tilts feel amazing. But man, what really sets him apart is that forward air, especially when you get the bomb kill confirm with it. Oh man. And what really makes it feel good is that slap sound effect with his forward air. It's amazing. Next up, I'm gonna go with Diddy Kong. Whenever I'm thinking about moves that feel great with Diddy Kong, I'm mainly thinking about sweet spot forward air. I love throwing forward air out. It works really well. It's very effective. But man, it's also really satisfying. The most satisfying thing with Diddy Kong though has got to be his combos, especially at 0%. If you can string these combos out the furthest that they go, man, it feels really good. Also, can we talk about monkey flip kick? Feels amazing. Next up, I'm going with Chrom. Now this one may be surprising because you would think that Roy would be ahead of Chrom here, but given the fact that I think Chrom is easier than Roy, it actually gives me more opportunities to hit his really good feeling moves. So just the fact that I hit them more often, I think really is what sets Chrom apart here. Especially whenever you go for kill confirm setups like jab to back air. I mean, there's just a higher percent of actually hitting that combo with Chrom, which I just think makes him that much better. Also, can we talk about how good his up B feels? It's awesome. Next up, I'm gonna go with Lucario. Now, just like with Roy and Wolf, there is a very big condition with Lucario. You gotta have aura, and not just a small amount of aura, but a good amount of aura. If you're at about 70% or above with Lucario, he feels amazing. The animation and the sound effects for hitting some of his moves whenever you're at max aura, it just really sets him apart. If he hit like that all the time, I would say that he belongs in S tier here. But the fact that his moves without aura are just so unsatisfying is what really balances him out. But I think that his max aura moves are just that much more satisfying. Very similarly, I'm gonna go with Zelda. Again, there's a big condition with Zelda. You gotta get the correct spacing on her moves. But whenever you get the perfect spacing on some of her moves that require it, I mean, there's no other feeling like it. Talking about forward air and back air and down air, those moves just really don't compare. Some of her other moves feel great to hit as well. Her smash attacks feel good. Her tilts feel really good. Her up air feels amazing. But man, whenever you get a sweet spot forward air or back air, that's what really sets Zelda apart. Next up, I'm going to group together all fighting game characters. In this order, we've got Kazuya, we've got Terry, then I'm going to go with Ryu, and then I'm going to go with Ken. Overall, I do think that the Shotos are more satisfying than the other two fighting game characters. But let's talk about Kazuya. Really, the only thing about Kazuya that feels good is executing his Electric Wind God Fist combos. The reason that they feel so good is because they require precise timing. Whenever you get that precise timing, man, it feels amazing. Pretty much all of its other moves feel okay. The Tekken animations don't really do it for me, but the sound effects on his Electric Wind God Fist and his smash attacks and the zoom ins and all of that, man, it feels awesome. I think that his throws actually feel really good because of the zoom ins as well. But nonetheless, he's probably the least satisfying fighting game character. Now, if we're talking about Terry, some of his moves really feel good. Most of his moves feel pretty good. But if we're talking specifically about input moves, that's what really sets Terry apart here. Catch me doing burn knuckle combos all day, specifically because they feel so good. They are effective as well, but I do them mainly because they feel good. Not to mention his go meter moves. I mean, catch me doing power geyser all day. I love that move. But really, all of his go meter moves are what sets him apart. And next up, we've got the Shotos. For the same reason, the input moves. With Ryu, it's very easy to set up his kill confirm combos that require input moves. Of course, the Tatsumaki feels really good, but if you can get a setup into sweet spot Shoryuken, my goodness, is Ryu very satisfying. And then of course we have Ken, the most satisfying fighting game character in my opinion. Of course, he is a lot like Ryu, except you have more options with his input moves. So you can be a little bit more flashy. And whenever you decide to be more flashy and extend his combos out longer, it just feels that much better. You don't always have to do down tilt into Tatsumaki. Of course, that's not going to kill us, Ken. But also, you don't always have to do a Shoryuken kill confirm. You can do a setup that ends in down air next to ledge, maybe one that ends in back air next to ledge. You can even do up air strings that end in Shoryuken. All of them feel amazing as Ken, and there's just so many options, and whenever you execute any of them, man, you feel like you're the best. Next up is Luigi. Now, I know that his 0 to death is pretty much old news at this point, but it still feels good to land. There's actually a lot of ways to get the 0 to death. There's not just one, and all of them feel amazing, especially when you end it with the super jump punch. That's got to be one of the most satisfying moves in the game. Next up, I'm going to put Zero Suit Samus. What really makes Zero Suit Samus feel great for me is knowing that you spaced your moves correctly with her. These Sweet Spot Zair and Sweet Spot Neutral Air have got to be one of the top reasons that I love Zero Suit Samus so much. Also, whenever you get a precise ladder combo, that always feels amazing. For most people, what really sets her apart is probably getting the flip kick spike. Of course, that's up there for me. But really, to me, what sets ZSS apart is executing her playstyle perfectly. And then next up, to round out the A tier, I'm going to go with Pit and Dark Pit. Now, this one may be controversial, I know, because they both have so many multi-hits. But to be honest, I think that their multi-hits are the most satisfying multi-hits in the game. Not that they feel so much better than some of their other moves, but man, they really do feel good, and it rounds out their entire moveset. Neutral air, up air, up smash even. I think that they all feel pretty good. But man, if we're talking about sweet spot back air, if we're talking about sweet spot side B, we have a very satisfying character on our hands here. Not to mention the sweet spot down air. That always feels amazing because it's very difficult to hit. And personally, I love a good snipe with each character. All right, 2 characters that I forgot to put in is Sonic. I'm going to put him in D tier here. Pretty much the only redeeming quality that Sonic has for him is his smash attacks and his back air. Every other move, not that great. The other character is King K. Rool. I'm actually going to put him at the bottom of B tier. He's got a lot of moves that feel pretty good, and then he's got some moves that feel really good. And as you can see here, we have 5 characters that I think belong in S tier. Let's start with DK. DK is satisfying for so many reasons. His combos feel amazing to string together, especially when you can escort to the blast zone. But his moves alone are what really sets him apart, mainly for one specific reason: the sound effect. Every single one of those moves sounds like the heaviest Hulk punch that you can think of, and they're just all amazing. No other character has the same sound effect that DK's moves have, and even some of his moves stun the game for a moment. I'm thinking his forward smash, and even when you get a fully charged neutral B, that zoom in, oh, feels awesome. Similarly, we have Captain Falcon. Captain Falcon's combos feel amazing to hit, especially when you end it with the knee. I think what really sets Captain Falcon apart is his edge guarding. Whenever you get a perfectly executed edge guard, you feel amazing. But what else can I say? Everyone loves Captain Falcon for these reasons. Next up, I'm going to go with Marth. Of course, there's a big condition with Marth. You have to get correct spacing with him. But every single move has an option for tipper. So literally all of his moves are very satisfying. And I think that Marth probably has the most satisfying move in the game, which I think is tipper forward smash. The condition for his moves is pretty great, but the potential is through the roof. His tipper mechanic carries him, but given the fact that it's even more difficult to execute his moves perfectly, makes him that much more satisfying, and it carries him all the way up here to S tier. Now, these last 2 characters have got to be my top 2 favorite characters to play as. In second place, we have Falco. There are so many moves that feel amazing to hit as Falco. I'm thinking down air, I'm thinking back air, all of his smash attacks really. But what really sets Falco apart is perfectly executing his combos. Now the truth is, Falco's combos are not that difficult to execute. Most of his combos are very bread and butter. You just start them the same way, you end them the same way. But there are ways to extend his combos and get a good read on your opponent. And whenever you do, he is probably one of the most satisfying characters in the game. I could quite literally do up tilt to back air all day and never get tired of hitting it. Last but not least, we have my main Fox. Fox is the most satisfying character in the game to me, and that's pretty much the only reason that I main him. I've tried to switch off of Fox, but every single time I play him and I string together a long Fox combo with really good pressure, that's what always draws me back to him. What really sets him apart is whenever you get a really good read on your opponent and you just apply the pressure and you make his combos last forever. Not to mention the fact that it feels really good to hit sweet spot neutral air, feels really good to hit up air, feels really good to hit up smash, but his most satisfying move to me has got to be back air. It just can't be beat. All right, guys, that is the satisfaction tier list. Tell me what you think about my list here. Tell me where your main ended up on my list and where you'd rather put him. This has been a very fun video to record, and I hope to do more like them. If you want to go ahead and check out my latest video, though, go ahead and click right down here. Check it out, and I will see you there. Bless you guys.